And you said, I want to get into the safeties and the safety position where the Packers stand. Why are you so fascinated by that, Tausch?
So that obviously, to me, was one of the spots last year, and nothing against Jonathan Owens or Rudy Ford or Darnell Savage, but I sent you guys this clip from Troy Polamalu that I don't know if you guys remember what it was, but it was basically he played everywhere. Mm-hmm. He was, and I told you, very few times was there games where we would get in our Wednesday meeting, and it was red alert, know where this dude is at all times. Troy Polamalu was that guy. Ed Reed is that guy. And I think Leroy Butler was that guy for the G&G. I think Nick Collins was building into being that guy, but it was more of don't throw that way or make sure you know where he is when you're releasing the football. Polamalu is one of those guys that you better know where he's at, and you adjusted run game concepts to figure out that you're going to block him and you're not going to allow him to be a game wrecker. And, of course, we did all that, and he had a fumble return for a tutter that beat us. So that's the kind of player that I think would be great for Green Bay to get. And I think that's the only spot that I think you're looking at the Packers completely overhauling. Now, there's a lot of safeties. And what I thought yesterday, obviously Antoine Winfield Jr. from Tampa was somebody that I thought Green Bay would have, because what I don't think we're going to see are the Packers and Brian Gutekunst go for, what's the dude from Minnesota, really good player, Harrison
Smith.
What's his last name? Harrison Smith. Goody ain't interested in old guys.
No, he's
It's
not.
a young man's game. So what I found interesting with who was not tagged, who's available in this space, the Packers have a little leeway once they finish the David Bakhtiari and I believe Devondre Campbell piece to this. There's going to be some play that they can go and get. And this isn't a bunch of 28, 30-year-old dudes. There are guys getting into their second contract, which is your elevator years, 24, 25 years old, that I think could make a monster impact on this team. And I'd like to go through that list because I'll be fair, I've heard of what Xavier, the dude from the Giants, who's the guy? There's a couple of guys
Xavier
that I think
McKinney?
McKinney that fits exactly what Brian Gutekunst is going to be looking for, and that is 24, 25, maybe didn't have the monster year that they wanted, but have all of the intangible things and have shown that they can do it. Goody loves distressed assets. Mm-hmm. Dontavian Wicks is like a great example of that. He was somebody that was really good and then was injured and didn't get a chance to maybe perform the way he wanted to. And if you had a redraft right now, is Dontavian Wicks a fifth-round pick?
No.
Heck no. That's what Goody's looking for, and I think this safety market, there is a lot of available talent, and it's going to be the money's going to dry up quick. Now, is there somebody you love? And I think it'd be a good little thing for our fans. Let's go through some of these, go through the pros and cons, and see who we think Goody might be targeting early in the free agency period.
All right, so the safety position is interesting because, as you mentioned, if you like Antoine Winfield Jr., that's not happening. He's been tagged.
No.
But Xavier McKinney is from the Giants. He's a unrestricted free agent, and he was recruited to Alabama by Derek Ansley, who is the Packers' new defensive passing game coordinator.
Interesting.
So there's an interesting connection. On top of that, Jordan Fuller, who is another safety from the Rams, played at Ohio State. You know who was at Ohio State when he was there?
Halfley.
Jeff Halfley.
Half dog. Yep. How old are both these guys? What's their ages?
So Xavier McKinney, let me switch out of this because I'm looking at about 8 different things here. Xavier McKinney, who, look, he had a good season with the Giants. Again, I don't know how strongly you feel about the Giants. He is 24. 24.
Elevator years.
Okay. Right. Again, as you always say, you're a little bit curious about why teams may let someone walk, which, again, I don't know. I look at his numbers. He played in all 17 games last year. He had 116 tackles. He had 3 interceptions. He broke up 11 passes. That looks like, to me, like a guy who potentially can do both the things that Jeff Hafley wants, right?
Yeah, and the question is, why would New York let a ascending player like that not – you have tags, you have opportunities. Is it a salary cap deal? Are the Giants up against it? I can't imagine they are. They're not going to re-sign Saquon. So always BYOB when it comes to grabbing guys, because you're going to have to pay more. But I love the concept of getting one and then drafting and developing and maybe bringing Savage back on a smaller deal, or Jonathan Owens, and not being pigeonholed into saying we need to grab a big-time safety with one of our first 2 picks. You never want to have to go in thinking that way.
McKinney was a second-round pick coming into the league. Jordan Fuller was a 6th-round pick out of Ohio State, pick number 199, just like Tom Brady. He is 26 years old. That's still in your elevator years.
I think McKinney is the guy that is super intriguing because of his age and because of the production that he's had. I don't know what that price tag is going to look like, but to me, what Green Bay has lacked really in the last decade, have you had a guy that is a ball hawk, Nick Collins type guy? And Nick Collins, you don't find those guys very often. But have you had anybody that you feel like is
you have not. No.
You haven't. And that position, while we all want to have a stud pass rusher, we want to have a great interior rush guy, you want all these guys. In today's NFL, that position, you can kind of do a little bit more dictating what you want to do on defense if you have that guy. Mm-hmm. Very few teams do. And if Green Bay can find one like that, you want to make this big jump, and Hafley wants to play a lot of press and be a lot more aggressive, you better have some guys that are willing to, read these things out and make plays when they're there, because you're going to give up more stuff if you're going to be a lot more aggressive than what we've seen the past defenses of this team do.
What about, I got one more for you. Who is, again, in his elevator years. He's 25. Julian Blackmon, who played for the Colts. He was a 3rd-round pick. He is hitting free agency for the first time, too. So those are 3 names that aren't like Troy Polamalu. But my question for you would be, are they vastly different than Darnell Savage? We look at Darnell Savage one way, whether it's positively or negatively, right? Because we've watched him the whole time. I don't know that much about McKinney or Fuller or Blackmon, because even when I would see games that their teams played in, it wasn't like I was focused in on how they were playing. So now you go to, all right, well, let's talk to some people that know and get some insight. We'll work on that. But for me, I think all 3 of these guys fit one crucial aspect that Goody looks for. And that is they are guys on their way up. They're not already established. Mm-hmm. Like if you look, and I know it went bad eventually, but Zadarius Smith was the quintessential, this is what Goody would love to sign. He hadn't had a double-digit sack season. He hadn't even been a starter full-time. He was a rotational guy in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And he paid him pretty darn good money.
He did.
And the first 2 years, he got pretty darn good return on that investment. And then he had a suspicious injury when the guaranteed money had run out. And
captaincy thing. And
right. But for the 2 years that he played, he had a combined 25 sacks, double digits each year. Not great against the run, but that's not why you signed him. Like, that's the kind of guy you're looking for, a guy who's still elevating his game, and maybe his elevators aren't lined up yet, but they're both moving upward, and they will be aligned.
So,
right?
Jason, the question I have, and you kind of brought this up, because if you're going to go after McKinney, who I think, again, what happens is a couple of draft and free agent and some of these NFL experts will put out, dude's a stud, they didn't tag him, Packers need a safety, it's a good fit. Whether or not that's true, we don't know. Goody and his staff will figure that out. But will Packer fans be disappointed if Darnell Savage is one of your safeties next year?
Yes. Even though I would argue that maybe he's just needs a new system to be better. Like, I think you have to at least allow for that possibility. Now, I don't think he's going to be back.
5 years, a long time.
Right,
He's been
and he
5
was,
years. He's
but
done
he was
some
pretty
good
good.
things.
I thought he was pretty good in his first 2 years in a different system. I thought he was pretty good for Mike Patton.
He was okay.
Better than he
I
was
just
for Joe
worry-
Barry.
Here's why I don't think he'll be back. I don't know what his price tag's going to be. Darnell Savage is the reason he's a first-round pick is because he is fast. Mm-hmm. He's an athlete. Mm-hmm. Is he a good tackler? All you heard Hafley talk about, and anyone else that when you want to listen, is aggressiveness, and you got to be a willing tackler.
Right, hair on fire.
And for all that we've seen with Savage and some of the stuff he's been really good at, he obviously made the big play against Dallas, but the images that I have, and again, is this fair? No. But I don't think he's ever been a good tackler. Correct me if I'm wrong. He has had a lot of opportunities where
he got benched
because
he wasn't a good tackler.
He missed, obviously, the McCaffrey play, I think, in the NFC divisional round. Now, obviously, he dropped the pick. Those are kind of the images. And if you want a guy that if you're going to play more aggressive and have your DBs pressing and doing more stuff, that safety's range has to be so good. And you're going to have opportunities as an offense to get one-on-one. And are you going to trust your guy to get him down? Hafley's probably looked at every game 5 times. And he's probably looking at it saying, I can win with this guy or I can't. And that's what you're talking about. Is this the fit? Is this not? And the beautiful part is we'll find out an answer next week. Because I will be shocked. Green Bay is going to sign a safety. It's either going to be Rudy Ford, Owens, Darnell Savage, McKinney, and the answer will, whatever that decision is, will tell you all that you need to know about how Hafley and his staff and Goody feel about Darnell Savage.